Hey guys, what's up? I wanted to make a quick video on the top 10 tips for knife carry. For anyone that carries carries a knife every day or on the weekends. I'm going to start off by number one, know your knife laws. When traveling from county to county, state to state, you got to be real careful because knife laws can change, and every county and every state has different knife laws, as most of you know. Some can be very lenient, others can be very strict. For instance, I was in New York about a year ago, and I went to go visit the Twin Tower Memorial. Me and a buddy of mine. We're both law enforcement officers, and we both had knives with us at the time. In order to get inside the memorial, you have to go through this maze, kind of like when you go to an amusement park and you have to go through, zigzag through the little barricades. Well, when we got to the end, we realized they weren't allowing any weapons in. Now, normally that's not a problem because being a law enforcement officer, they allow you to enter any facility with a weapon as long as you show your credentials. Well, the thing is, they were allowing 0 weapons into the facility, which meant we could not enter with our knives. Now, I really wanted to go to the memorial. We had already checked out of our hotel. We had our backpacks on. We were leaving that afternoon, so we had no place to put the stuff. We could have left it outside, hid the knife somewhere, and then come back and get it, which was taking a chance. I went outside and trying to consider what I was going to do. I saw a Port Authority police officer, and he was nice enough to offer to let me put it in the trunk of his car until we came out. But he wasn't sure if he was going to be there for longer than 35-40 minutes. So anyway, the hotel across the street was nice enough to let us put both of our knives into their safe for safekeeping, which was very nice. But if they hadn't, it would have been a tough decision whether to throw that knife in the trash or give it away or see the memorial. Luckily for us, we were able to see the memorial, and we had that option. But for a lot of people, that can be a problem, including Disneyland, guys. By the way, when you come to Disneyland here in California, be careful, because if you have a sidearm, a concealed carry permit, they will not let you enter with a gun. They do have complimentary lockers that they let you store your stuff in for law enforcement and the military, which is nice of them to do that, but they do not allow any guns. Okay, number 2. Here in California, here in San Diego County, Riverside County, if you get caught drunk in public, normally it's a book and release charge, which means you get booked into the facility, and 6 to 8 hours later, you get released, as long as you don't have any warrants. Well, if they catch a knife in your pocket, there's another little charge that they add to that, and that's called carrying a concealed dirk or dagger, especially if you don't disclose it to them right away. That carries a $25,000 fine or bail. So that drunk in public charge, was just a book and release charge, turns into a magistrate or judge, court case. So something to be aware of. If you're going to go out drinking, probably not a good idea to carry your knife or your gun. That's just kind of like a general rule of thumb, I guess. Okay, so that's number 2. Don't drink and drive. Don't be drunk in public with a knife. It never ends well. Number 3, do not fight the urge to use your knife to open clamshell packaging. Nowadays everything comes in that clamshell packaging, and what inspired this video, as a matter of fact, was a buddy of mine at work who was telling me how he got this scar on his hand. Basically, he said he was opening some clamshell packaging and was using his knife. He slipped. He basically ended up cutting the palm, the webbing here between the thumb, into about that deep. One of his fingers, he can't extend it all the way, and he said when he touches the top of his hand, he gets tingling up on his shoulder. So use scissors for that. A lot of us have the knives in our pockets, and it seems really simple to get it out and be very careful. But if you've noticed here on YouTube, people opening clamshell packaging, it's really tough to do, guys. And they always end up either scratching what they're opening inside, because the knife gets pushed in really quickly, or they end up slipping. Pay attention next time when you see those videos, and you'll see that's pretty much accurate. So use scissors. In the long run, it's gonna beat that trip to the emergency room. All right, number 4, lending a knife. Many times I'll be at the range and someone says, "Hey, can I borrow your knife?" I used to lend the knife out with no questions asked. Nowadays, now that my knives are a little more expensive, I tend to ask them what it's for and if I can help them with the cutting. For instance, the other day someone asked me to borrow the knife. I let them borrow the knife, and then I saw them take it out, and they were about to scrape like this, the carbon buildup on their bolt, on their M4. I was like, wait a minute, there's no way. This edge is nice and sharp. I'm not gonna let you use this knife to scrape that crap off. The other thing you guys might want to do is if you lend a knife to someone, show them how to open it and how to close it. I've seen a lot of people fumbling with knives. I've lent my OTF knives out and people can't figure out how to do it. The other thing is those assisted openings, when they come out quickly, some people get surprised and drop your knife. So it's a good idea to show them how do you open it and how to close it before you hand it to them, or let them know that it's an OTF or an automatic. It's like watching two teenagers on prom night. They're just fumbling with it. Okay, number 5, food prep knives. Another thing I noticed, and I'm guilty of it too, is I have this knife and I love it, right? This is so versatile. The blade is just perfect for everything, right? Slicing, dicing. So I'm real tempted to, after I finish scraping that bolt, the carbon buildup off that bolt, hey, time for lunch, and bring my piece of fruit over and start cutting into it, right? Well, here's a little tip. First of all, you probably shouldn't be doing that. You probably have one knife for food prep and one knife for utility cutting. But the other thing that comes into play is lubricating a knife. Now, some people use WD-40 to get the gunk off the blade, you know, when you start collecting all that tape and, you know, that sticky stuff. Then they use that same knife to cut their kid's apple, you know, which is kind of probably not the best thing to do. Some people have told me that using extra virgin olive oil or cooking oil to lubricate your blade if you're going to use it for food prep is a good idea. It fights any rust or corrosion. So anyway, that's something to keep in mind. Also, I mean, cross-contamination between raw meats and you know, any other cutting tasks is probably the best thing to do is have 2 separate knives. But like I said, I'm guilty of it too. When I have this knife, it seems like this knife can do a lot of the stuff, you know. So I try to fight that urge, but I usually lose. Anyway, here's the other thing, pry bar. How many times have you been tempted to, you have the knife out already, and the only time you really should be using a knife for prying is if that manufacturer of the knife says it's a pry bar also. Otherwise, a knife this thin could very easily get either broken on the tip or tweaked. I do have to say that when I was working armored transport and I dropped one of my Spydercos, I think it was similar to this one, just, you know, black, and it was the older model. I dropped it from the armored truck and it fell and the tip broke. Now, sending it back to Spyderco and telling them that I was on an armored truck and opening packages and it fell, I was thinking, they're probably not gonna buy it. They're probably gonna think I use it as a screwdriver. But they were nice enough to reprofile the blade, regrind it, and even though the blade came back a little shorter, they did fix the problem. But you probably shouldn't be using a knife as a pry bar. I think a lot of people already know that. It's kind of common sense. But we're always tempted to do that. Here's another one. Number 7, Dremel. This Dremel tool, very tempting. I've done it myself. You want to make some modifications to your knife, and it seems like, hey, I see Tough Thumbs on, it looks pretty easy what they're doing. You know, those G10 scales look pretty cool. I think I can do the same thing, you know, give it a nice design. Before you're tempted to use this Dremel tool on one of your expensive knives, maybe you can use it on one of the cheaper ones in practice before you do that. I've done it myself. One thing you probably shouldn't be using a Dremel tool for is sharpening a knife. It's very hard to keep a steady pressure, and you always end up jacking the knife. I've never seen a good scenario using a Dremel tool for knife sharpening. Now, for modification of, you know, sharp edges, yeah, I can see you doing that, but probably stay away for blade reshaping. I've never seen that end well, never. Okay, number 8. One tool does not fit all your requirements. For instance, I will carry sometimes I'll carry 2 knives, sometimes I'll carry the Swiss Army knife. I like carrying the Swiss Army knife because you have the ability to have, you know, the large blade, the scissors, the screwdriver, and I'm not tempted to use a knife as a screwdriver, which I normally don't do. I pretty much learned the hard way not to do that. But just remember, one tool will probably not get you through everything. This blade is nice but since it doesn't lock, it's probably not good for batoning or any hard use cutting, you know? But it's nice to have options, guys. Here's the other cool one, and one of my favorites, testing sharpness on paper. Now I see this all the time, you know, guys just sharpen their knives, they're super sharp and they want to test the sharpness. And how do we do it on YouTube? You know, we cut paper, and it's pretty impressive, and it lets you know if the knife is sharp. I've also seen people, you know, do the hair on the arm, and this knife's pretty sharp. But let me tell you what else I've seen. I've seen people use their nail. That's a real common one, to see if the edge is damaged. But imagine someone watching YouTube, especially a 13, 14-year-old kid, trying to do that same function on the thumb and slicing the tip of their tip of their finger off, or, you know, cutting it. Probably not the best thing to do to test sharpness. I would say the paper test is pretty good. Even the arm one is a little shady, I think, sometimes. I used to work at this Army Navy store, and we used to sell the Buck hunting knives. Now these things came razor sharp from the factory, and a lot of the clientele that we had in this store was Hispanic men. So they'd come in there and they'd take a look at the knife. The first thing they want to do is touch it. Now I would always tell them, you know, be careful, because these knives are very sharp. And the next thing they would do is they would take this knife and hold it up to their tongue. They would stick their tongue out and touch the tip to their tongue, the edge. More than one time I saw this happen, guys. Now, when they cut their finger, I can give them a Band-Aid. But what do I do when they cut their tongue? Also, who puts their tongue to a frickin' knife? Well, I've seen it done more than once. So I know that somewhere out there in Mexico, they use their tongue as a guide to sharpness. The other thing I hear a lot of is a sharp knife is safer than a dull knife. I think that's true, because if you're cutting something and you can't quite get it, you're going to put more pressure. If you can't quite cut it, you're going to put more pressure, you're going to put more force into it. If you have a sharp knife, it tends to slice and do the job a little better. So I can totally see how that would be true. And number 10, guys, I saved this one for last because it is kind of funny. I've been guilty of this myself. Like I said, a lot of these things I've learned through trial and error. Sometimes I've been waiting for my wife to come out of her appointment. I'll be in my car and I'll be flicking the knife, flicking the knife, flicking the knife. And what happens when you do something over and over and over? You start getting tired, you start getting fatigued, and eventually you're gonna drop this knife. And if you're in the car, where is this knife gonna land? Because there's not a lot of places you can go, especially if you're strapped in, or if you have some of those sports seats that kind of cradle you in the seat. This knife is gonna land on your lap, either on your thigh or between your thigh. It's never going to end well, especially if you have a belly like myself. It's going to hit something soft. And if you keep your knife sharp, it's probably dangerous. So my tip for you guys, number 10, it's going to be never play with your knives while sitting in your car. All right, guys, hope this helps somebody. Hit the like button if you like it, guys. Gives me some feedback that you guys are watching and liking the videos. I just reached 500 subscribers. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you guys that participate, that make the comments. I am planning to having a big giveaway for my 500. I'm still trying to put together some prize packages. I want to do at least 3 so that, you know, more people have a chance to join. And even though I have 500 subscribers, I probably only have 100 steady people that watch my videos. So last time I had a contest, I think I had like 30 something people that entered the contest, and all you had to do was like the video and say that you liked the video. Make a comment and hit the like. It's not like you have to do anything crazy. So anyway, I'll be doing the same thing. The odds are pretty good for winning, guys. The last guys that received the prizes I gave away were pretty happy. And they all received their prizes, even though I had one guy who, unfortunately, it went to the wrong location, but the post office, the USPS, made it right. Thank you, USPS. We appreciate you. All right, guys, have a good day. Have a good Halloween. Tomorrow's Halloween. Thanks for watching.